In the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful, may the peace and blessings of Allah the Exalted be upon the Prophet Muhammad and his purified progeny, and may the damnation of Allah be upon their enemies. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our 17th episode of this series. In the last episode we showed some clips and we commented on such clips. We firstly showed a clip of one of these exaggerating eulogists who said Imam Ali alayhi salam is God, and then we showed the Shia scholars' stance in condemning such statements. And I also mentioned the point that, look, we don't take our doctrine and our beliefs from people who are eulogy reciters, and anyone can become a eulogy reciter. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a good eulogy reciter, you know. It's also a skill. We have to admit that it also is a skill to be a eulogy reciter and really capture people's hearts and emotions, just like the same can apply to being a talented speaker. But we said it doesn't require any formal qualification for someone to be a eulogy reciter, and therefore we should be careful in which statements we accept and the statements which are uttered in such eulogies. If we find that such statements contradict the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, then we don't take them. Just like the person Reza Qassab, who is an owner of one of the big hayats in Kashan, where he said that if you say Imam Ali alayhi salam is limited, then Allah is limited. And we showed how such a narration was condemned by one Shia cleric and how such a statement directly contradicted the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam as mentioned in Kitab Tawhid by Shaykh As-Saduq. So what we want to do in this episode is continue with a quote from one of the Maraja, Sayyid Ali Sistani, who many follow, and he is the most followed, or one of the most followed, we could say probably the most followed in the world. And what he says about the Ghulat, to make it more clear of the Shia scholars' stance on those who commit exaggeration about the imams alayhim salam. So if we look in one of the Islamic law books from Sayyid Sistani, we find the following quote on Mas'ala or issue 2406. He says the following: a Muslim woman cannot marry a non-Muslim, and a male Muslim also cannot marry a non-Muslim woman who are not Ahlul Kitab. However, there is no harm in contracting temporary marriage, so zawajul mut'a, with Jewish and Christian women, but the obligatory precaution is that a Muslim should not take them in permanent marriage. So just to comment quickly on this passage, firstly he says a Muslim woman cannot marry a non-Muslim. So this is not for a type of unjust discrimination, rather we have reasons behind that normally the woman is influenced by her husband, and usually the children can adopt the beliefs more of the husband. So we are clear in the Islamic law that a Muslim woman can only marry a man who is a Muslim, or a man who converts, which has happened in many cases, that they may meet someone, let's say at work or university, who is not a Muslim. They speak to them about the Islamic doctrine, and then the person converts to Islam. If they convert, there's no problem with that. And then he mentions that a Muslim male cannot marry a non-Muslim woman who are not Ahlul Kitab. So this is a difference between the Maraja. Sayyid Sistani, he only allows temporary marriage with those from Ahlul Kitab, and then if they convert, it can be put into a permanent marriage. But there are other Maraja who actually allow permanent marriage with the people of the book. For example, Sayyid Sadiq al-Shirazi, he allows for one to marry those women who are from the people of the book. So there is a difference there in this fiqh issue. So Sayyid Sistani further comments and he says, there are certain sects like Khawarij, Ghulat, so the exaggerators here, and Nawasib who claim to be Muslims, but are classified as non-Muslims. So the Nawasib who claim to be Muslims, they are not Muslims. The Ghulat, the extremists, who may claim to be Muslims or they claim to be Shia, they are not Muslims, but they are classified as non-Muslims, as well as the Khawarij who show enmity towards Imam Ali alayhi salam. Muslim men and women cannot contract temporary or permanent marriage, permanent or temporary marriage with them. So someone who is a Shi'i Muslim a male, he can marry a Shia woman, he can marry a Christian woman, a Zoroastrian woman, as according to many ulama, Zoroastrians are from the people of the book, and they had a divine scripture according to our narrations in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they can also marry a Jewish woman. And furthermore, a Muslim Shi'i man can marry a Sunni woman, and also a woman, a Shi'i woman, if she would not become misguided, she can also marry a Sunni man, because in our fiqh and jurisprudence we consider them having the hukum, the ruling of Islam. But those who are Ghulat and Nawasib and Khawarij are non-Muslims. So it's very clear from Sayyid Sistani in this particular quote that the Ghulat are not considered as Muslims at all. And if anyone makes these Ghulu type of statements, as we showed in previous clips, then they would be out of the fold of Islam. Marriage is forbidden with them. Doing the prayer of the deceased is not allowed on them. They are not to be shrouded and buried in a Muslim graveyard. So this is a type of ahkam which applies, and this is the opinion of the Shia scholars. Another quote we find from Sayyid Sistani in one of his Islamic law books, issue 107. He also quotes that Ghulat who believe in any of the holy imams as God, or that they are incarnations of God. So this concept of hulul, where God comes into the imam's body, or that they are incarnations of God, and Khawarij and Nawasib who express enmity, nasb, towards the holy imams, are also najis. So again, it's like in the previous episode we showed the clip of Sayyid Qazwini saying that these people would be considered ritually impure, which would of course give someone a type of limitation in regard to their interaction with such people. So these Ghulat, they're not considered as Muslims, they're not considered as Shia, they do not have the Islamic ahkam applied on them, and they are also ritually impure, as read in this quote here. So all of these Ghulat type of raduds which utter polytheism and shirk, they would be condemned according to all of the Islamic books of all of the scholars. But again, it is up to the Shia community to do takfir on these people and be harsh on them. As soon as one utters a type of kufr, we don't make excuses for them, like many of them do, where they curse muqassirs. They say that, oh, the muqassirin, la'natullah alayhim, they do sab of them. But we showed from the narrations that the Ghulat are worse than the muqassirin, and the muqassirin have more chance of guidance. So one should not do this where they will be harsh on, let's say, muqassirin, but when it comes to Ghulat, no, make excuses for them. Oh, what did he really mean by his statement? Did he mean this? Did he mean that? No. If someone says clear shirk and polytheism which would contradict the beliefs of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, then straight we should do takfir on this person. Unless we find that the person after that, they repent and they say that they do tawbah from such statements. So again, I mentioned how just like clerics, or particular clerics, the ones who recite eulogies have a type of prominence within the Shia community, and they have an influence. And what I'm going to discuss now, there will be many Shia who won't be happy with the words that I'm going to say. And some have said before, when I've discussed about a particular well-known personality, that, you know, this individual is dead, we shouldn't talk about the dead. So I told this particular brother, I said, okay, with this logic, we shouldn't speak about the Sahaba. All of the Sahaba, they passed away when they were with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not up to us to judge them. They are praised in the Holy Quran. And of course, the Sahaba are praised in the Holy Quran, but which Sahaba? Sahaba at the same time are also condemned in the Holy Quran. So we have different categories, and we don't believe in this concept that all of the Sahaba are just and all of them are going to Jannah, which is not proven by the Quran, and the authentic ahadith of the Mukhalifin refute this point. So one brother said this before, and when I answered him, he agreed with me after that, that if we use this logic that, oh, this person is dead, we shouldn't speak about them, then don't speak about any of these historical personalities within Islam who are more important than these individuals that have passed away within our time or century. So one person that I'm going to discuss is by the name of Sayyid Jawad Zaker, or Zaker. Sayyid Jawad, even until this day, his eulogies are listened to by many, and they are in the Farsi language, and you find some clips also subtitled. Sayyid Jawad Zaker was a very prominent and well-known radud, and discussing the issue about him uttering particular statements which could be considered as ghulu, or which were ghulu, they were actually kufr, not could be considered, they were ghulu and kufr, raises some negative emotions from some of the Shia. But it is upon us, dear brothers and sisters, not to shy away from these issues, and we need to discuss these particular issues. And for that reason, I have gotten the clip of him subtitled, of his justification as to why he said these things. But he was a very prominent radud, and the statements which he uttered were some of the worst kufr and shirk that one could hear. And what we will do is present some of his statements and comment on these statements. And just on a side note, dear brothers and sisters, we're not saying that all of the content that he recited was problematic. Some of the Nohas, the eulogies he recited, were fine and they had no kufr in them. But let us see this clip now and we will analyse the statements.
حیدر حیدر خالق ارض و سمایی حیدر حیدر روزی ده ما سبایی حیدر حیدر عبد خدا و خدایی عبد خدا و خدایی عبد خدا و خدایی.
Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters. So I'm not sure if it's visible in the clip, but some of you may have noticed another person who is next to him by the name of Hamid Alimi. And Hamid Alimi is still alive to this day, and we will also speak about some of the statements he said later on. But we see him clearly next to Jawad Zaker, and he's not condemning or saying anything about some of these statements. He's tacitly approving it. And we will actually show some of the kufr that Hamid Alimi said. Yes, some now may be shocked. Why are you attacking everyone? These people are big reciters. One of them has passed away, another is still alive now. But we do not use our emotions, dear brothers and sisters. If someone says kufr and things which contradict the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, this has to be called out. So in the first statement he says that Haydar, you are the khaliq of the heavens and the earth. Something that clearly contradicts the Quran, where Allah Azza wa Jal says the following:
Inna rabbakumullahu alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal-ard. Allahu khaliqu kulli shay.
Allah Azza wa Jal says that verily your Lord is the one who created the heavens and the earth. Allah Azza wa Jal then says that Allah is the khaliq of everything. And we have countless narrations which show that it is Allah Azza wa Jal who is the creator of the heavens and the earth. And Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam never claimed that they created the heavens of the earth. And some with their jahl, their ignorance, and their ignorant type of flawed reasoning try to prove that Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam created the heavens and the earth. And some may say, yeah, this was done by the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal. But this is still a type of exaggeration where someone may not directly be saying that they are God. They're saying this is by the permission of Allah, but you are saying statements which Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam clearly condemned. So Jawad Zaker said that Haydar, you are the khaliq of the heavens and the earth. And then he says, Haydar, you are an abd. So you are abd of Khuda and you are Khuda. So a complete contradictory statement which makes no sense, which is similar to the concept of the Trinity, where Isa alayhi salam, Jesus is God, but he's also the Son of God. This is a similar type of rhetoric which was said by Jawad Zaker, unfortunately, that Haydar, you are Khuda, an abd of Khuda, you are slave, servant of God, and you are God. And this is complete shirk and kufr, which Sayyid Jawad Zaker unfortunately uttered. He uttered straight up shirk, kufr, and Hamid Alimi, who's also alive now, said nothing in that majlis. And all the people doing matam and the simple-minded people in the audience could be misguided by such statements. And when you look at the interpretation of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam of the verses, that verily it is your Lord who created the heavens and the earth, they never claim this for themselves. One can check the tafsir, what Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam said about these verses, and they clearly said that this is for Allah Azza wa Jal. But later on in the Ghulu series, we will do some in-depth episodes and analyse the arguments of the Ghulat who try to say that it's the imams alayhim as-salam who created the heavens and the earth according to their jahl. So now one might say that, oh, was this perhaps a slip of the tongue for, say, Jawad Zaker? And the reason I'm discussing this, dear brothers and sisters, is because he was a prominent eulogy reciter who's still listened to today. People post his pictures. And we will actually analyse his statements. Okay, did he repent for this? Did he regret saying these statements? So someone might say that, okay, was this a one-off type of statement or slip of the tongue that he said, he got emotional and he said this kufr? No, he said it various times. Let us see the next clip. Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters. So we saw clear kufr here again, clear shirk and polytheism, where he said, La ilaha, and I don't even want to utter this, but he said that La ilaha illa, and then he said Zahra, meaning that there is no God but Fatima to Zahra. Nawasib such as Mullah Zadeh, Al-Majusi, or whatever his name is, this Baluchi Nasibi who lives in London, used this against the Shia. And such propaganda was used by the Nawasib to create a negative image of the madhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam and call the Shia mushriks, because they show a clip of someone who's meant to be a prominent eulogy reciter saying there is no God but Zahra. And then the people started to repeat what he said. How would such a person answer Allah Azza wa Jalla on the Day of Judgment? How would a person look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam and expect to get their intercession when they said such kufr? And they will be accountable, anyone who says such statements, for those which they misguided. So this was not just a one-off thing, dear brothers and sisters. Sayyid Jawad Zaker said the most ugliest of kufr and shirk, and this is the reality. If you don't like the episode, turn it off, but this is the reality, dear brothers and sisters, and this is something that we have to speak about. Yes, this was over 15 years ago, or maybe even 20 years ago, I believe now, where these things were shown. But because of these statements, Nawasib had ammo given to themselves to say, look, this is a Shia. And anyone who is muwahid, who follows the Tawhid of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, not the tajseem of the Salafiyah, where they believe Allah is in a form and a body. Anyone that follows the Tawhid of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam would never dare utter such statements, even in the highest emotional state, because they are familiar with the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, where they taught about the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jalla and how Allah is unique and not in a body, and that Allah Azza wa Jalla cannot be compared to His creation. So how would someone answer for such kufr? And also we have a clip of Mullah Zadeh which I will show, where he tried to say that, hey, have you seen any of the Shia condemn this? Any of the Shia, one Shia alim condemn this? And we will answer this challenge of Mullah Zadeh, which he said many years ago on one of the Arabic speaking channels. And we will also show, dear brothers and sisters, what Sayyid Jawad Zaker commented after saying such statements, and whether he made a video crying out in Tawbah to the world for such statements. We will show this because it is only fair to give his side of events. And what we will do, inshallah ta'ala, in the next episode is that we will clarify this and we will see, okay, are there any Shia scholars who have condemned such statements? And do we have any raduds now who are actually speaking against shirk to purify the culture of eulogists of these ghulat? And also in the next episode, we will show the statement of Jawad Zaker and whether he himself actually did tawbah and condemned such statements. But what we can say is that such statements which were uttered were complete kufr and shirk, and it's a real problem in the Shia society where we need reform in this type of issue, where someone can become such a big eulogy reciter but utter such kufr. Yes, the rulings have been there for many years before this person was even born, of the Shia scholars, of what our stance is towards the Ghulat. but it all stems down to how we as a Shia community condemn kufr and shirk, and how we could do takfir on people who utter such statements. So join me inshallah for the next episode, where we will highlight the points that I've just mentioned, and we will continue with our analysis of such statements. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum wa lana.